let's just put a few things in perspective. Political commentary that chases the dog's tail is very problematic. Humans, like cats that chase laser points around a wall, barking at it, not barking at it, but you know what I mean. If a cat could bark at that instead of just chase it. People that are not aware of the bias nature of their pinball bumper positions, right? So what I'm doing here, I'm gonna play this here. It's Fox, maybe it's Fox and Friends even. It's the 5 pound Fox News. Gutfeld on Bernie's comments about China. This is dated August 28, 2019. Today is August 29th on the Das Pook channel.
Candidate and avowed socialist Bernie Sanders said China had done more to address extreme poverty than any country in history. Listen.
But what we have to say about China, in fairness to China and its leadership, is, if I'm not mistaken, they have made more progress in addressing extreme poverty than any country in the history of civilization. Okay, so they've done a lot of things for their people.
He's right. According to the World Bank, the number of poor in China went from 880 million in 1981 to less than 10 million.
Okay, so 880 million, right, reduced to 10 million, right? So think about 888 people, right, reduced to 10, meaning in the past, there would be, equivalent ratio would be 888 people to 10. And that amount is the amount that that China has gotten out of poverty. Now, the thing these guys are going to describe. Well, let me just let them play it here a little bit. I'll jump in and tell you.
I wonder how they did that. Well, the Chinese.
I wonder how he did that too. He brings out his alien hawkish. I'm the Gutfeld right winger. Listen to this slap of horse shit that he can comb over dialectically the best he can. Uninformed, all these guys on the panel.
Socialists killed millions of poor people, so there's that. Dead people aren't poor, just dead.
Okay, so Mao, when I'm not, maybe I should look it up, right? Out of how many people did Mao kill? Let's do a little search here. We're just going to do this real quick. Okay, how many people did MAO kill? Comment showed up in the search results before I hit return. Okay, so anyway, point is, I bet the gap between 880 and 10, consider the millions at the end of that reduction, I bet somewhere it's pretty minuscule. This whole kill. Right, let's see. It's quite a long bit on him here. Let's see. Okay, China's population grew from around 550 million to over 900 million under his leadership, under Mao's leadership, right? So let's see. His regime has been called autocratic and totalitarian. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so anyway. So responsible vast numbers of deaths with estimates ranging from 30 to 70 million victims. 30 to 70 million. Okay, so now think of 818 people being reduced to 10, right, in terms of poverty, right? That the number of people percent ratio in your per capita country is 10. When it used to be 100, right? 880. Oh, it was 88. 888 million, right? And then we subtract we subtract this here amount from 30, right, and 30 to 70, and what we have here is 850, right, 58 to a lesser amount, 830. And anyway, point is, huge drastic reduction. We're going to go back to the video. Now, let me stop rambling. Sorry, I'm rambling. I'm not sorry I'm rambling. I have to ramble to get this fucking thing across.
They called that the Great Leap Forward, and after that they used the tool that Bernie despises, capitalism. I wish there was a visual metaphor for Bernie's argument.
They're just showing Bernie Sanders hitting a punching bag, like one of those hanging bags, teardrop bags. Boom, boom. He's hitting it a few times. Like that's the metaphor for him against capitalism. Okay.
Just have to keep watching that. I don't know why.
He gets the chuckle.
Anyway, it was only after China rigorously adopted free market principles, private ownership.
The giggly, snooty, blonde, broad, buttress, Gutfeld bullshit. Like, okay, let's look. I'm going to say that it's because of Mao and that China's really bad because of that whole thing. And then, hey, I'm going to tie this into Bernie Sanders. And then I'm going to make some joke about punching a bag. And then I'm going to have my cohort, this here blonde bitch, chuckle at it. Not because she thinks it's funny, but because she knows that that's the direction and idealism of this particular show. And this particular show only has one guy that is supposed to play the devil's advocate to the group. He's going to speak here in a moment.
Decentralization, that they transformed their economy from a house of horrors to something much more humane. The stuff that saved 1 billion lives in China may be the things Bernie thinks has harmed our country. The less of those who scream about inequality embrace ideas that create only more inequality by replacing equal opportunity with equal outcome. You end up with two classes, the poor and the powerful.
Oh, okay. So now right here, the poor and the powerful. He's saying there's only two classes, right? Now, an Adam Smith free capitalistic approach to an economy sounds really good in Gregorian days before high-speed exchanges and internet and corporations taking over and being able to lobby huge amounts of funds and grease hands and even work in collusion with the federal government in terms of the NSA on one side, like you collect this data, right? And then we'll give you the corporate protections that now we're running into in terms of whether or not social media has a journalistic requirement or whether or not it has a, what do you call it? It's merely like a public utility or a platform. So because it's hybrid, the companies tend to get some benefit out of this particular racket. And the interesting thing, well, I'll save this. I'll save the description of what China is doing and that these guys are entirely naive to, and yet this is the commentary we're getting, right? And by the way, Chaffetz, he's from my state, fucking Mormons, throwing pixie dust on the front end so they can shake your hand, fuck you in the bank account on the back end. Not in all cases, but it's not beyond them, right? Mitt Romney, vulture capitalists, buy a company, drain its assets, bump it, sell it.
Which that kind of shit. China. It seems to be happening.
And the thing is Mitt Romney's form of capitalism is still within the bounds of what we would call, like, that's old school classical capitalism being extended, where you can legally buy a company, fuck all the employees, right, and just drain it and then milk it and then sell it, right? And that's Romney's approach. That's not the same thing as Facebook and Twitter. Corporate capitalism. Corporate capitalism is a different class. So when Gutfeld says this shit, he's full of fucking shit.
San Fran, LA, and Baltimore too. Of course, China went whole communist, resulting in mass murder, religious persecution, forced abortion of female babies, and famine. The number of dead in China under Mao has to be counted in the tens of millions. So yeah, praise is in order for China finally coming around to abandoning bad ideas. Maybe Bernie should do the same. Dana, you were very
Okay, so because Bernie supports that move out of the poor, the poverty move, because he supports that, somehow these guys are going to say he's criticizing classical capitalism, Adam Smith capitalism, right? And then they're gonna parse it out, and then they're gonna use the word powerful, right? Because people in the government are in fact powerful people, right? But it doesn't mean they're just people. Now, the thing that they don't understand about China's government is China, although it doesn't have mixed parties generally, right, like vying for the presidency, what they do have is a mixed kind of dictator and capitalistic society that has currently also moved them out of poverty, right? And see, the difference is that U.S. corporate capitalism allows for lobbying and lobbying on the front end. And so if we removed and we made politicians statesmen again, they would no longer be able to necessarily take like lobbying bribes, right? But even part of the bribery is to include federal law that allows a continuance of the bribery. It's like the tautological move of Congress gets to choose whether or not they get a raise or not, and then how much that is, as if they're being very cautious about their $100,000 raise per annum.
very excited about this topic today because it bothered you what he said.
It did, and then I listened to your monologue, and I
Anyway, and so the point is that is going to be, well, I want these guys to speak too. I don't want to just ramble, right? You guys got to get the idea of why I'm reacting, because I heard the majority of this and then thought,
look at the things I wrote down, and I think, I might have been sitting next to you for many years because I don't feel like I have too much other things to add. When Bernie Sanders says China has done a lot for its people, I thought, no, it's to its people. And the idea is that they put in this sort of quasi-capitalism. What's happened is that they've created this middle class. Yeah. And it's a huge middle class. And
Okay, so she's using the phrase quasi-capitalism, and they're applying the reference to China's economy, and that's fine to do because they do have some sort of dictatorial political power. But by quasi, she means an exclusion from corporate capitalism to Adam Smith capitalism. We could throw the same word quasi-capitalism onto the U.S. states, because it is. And the court systems show this. All sorts of things show this particular fact, this variance that allows, as opposed to justice, expediency of the court process system over justice. Whether or not there's laws against vulture capitalism or not, unions that protect the workers, whatnot. Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to buy out a company and destroy it if you want. I'm just saying it seems as if there should be maybe some union, maybe if they're going to put it up for sale before they strip it down, maybe they have to legally put it up for sale before they just strip it down for parts.
You should want to sell them a lot of things because they have money to buy. But one of the things that's upsetting to them is that there's no rule of law and they don't have private property rights. So then what do you have happen? They would like to take their capital and move it someplace else. Where do you think they want to put it?
Right.
Okay, so look, there's no private property. She's trying to describe China again, right? There's no private property law. Same thing here. We have eminent domain laws. You're always paying taxes on your land. You don't truly ever own your land. The U.S. government, not the USA classical government, the corporation included commercial code laws that solidified a uniform practice of commercial codes, a way to transact, allows for an ongoing taxation of different areas. And certainly there's probably loopholes for historic native lands and treaty territories, BMLM, different legal definitions of these different lands.
You want to put anything in?
Point is they're trying to talk about our freedom instead of our captivity, when the left generally exposes to the degree of our restrictions, the degree of our liberties, right? The degree in which our liberties are restricted is what I'm saying. Where the right is just trying to that's fucking nothing. Wait, pull your head out of your ass.
Safe and you have rule of law. And I would love to have somebody in the United States actually stand up for the human rights problems. Like Bernie Sanders doesn't talk about that at all in the interview. And I think that he agrees with President Trump on being tough on China regarding.
Okay, they're going to bring up Muslims here. China's like putting Muslims away, re-educating them, making certain they understand, hey, look, the state is winning. If you're going to be Muslim, you're going to get re-educated through our camp system, because we're not going to allow a theological isomorphism between state and religion. Even they, like, look, this is the dividing line. We run this fucking joint, this fucking town. We're the Chinese government. You're not going to practice that shit in our country. And I'm not saying it's shit, as a grand proverbial statement. What I'm saying is that the division between church and state, religion and state of the West, the China has even adopted that. I don't know their code, I don't know their legal code, but it appears as if they're not going to allow a religion like a political party to have play and influence over the politics and the policies that is the Western, the body of government, the tripartite body of government that the U.S. citizenry and our capitalistic corporate influence has over digital landscapes and over trade agreements and all sorts of other things. Because we're not only a Judeo-Christian country, but the Judeo practice. The Jewish people are allowed, anyone outside of their group, they are allowed, and it's okay religiously to charge interest upon debt and to allow that as an ongoing forward-moving thing. Where in the Quran, not to give them some credence, the Muslims, they believe that one should just abide a yearly out, like you have this much time to pay, or it will jump to this next definite amount. It's not an ongoing fixed or variable interest rate. It's just a statement that's agreed to up front that includes the interest of the returned debt. And hopefully it's within a certain particular part of time.
Trade.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't see how the Democrats are actually differentiating themselves from President Trump at all on China. The president, however, has started, remember at the State of the Union, what did he say? The United States will never be a socialist country. And that was his opening salvo.
Right. Now, the thing is, we're already a socio-capitalistic country, or a capio-socialistic country. Right, at least anyone that's been alive, since Social Security has been in play, right? So if you take the advent of Social Security, and Social Security is a form of legal relief when we were, as a nation, required to turn in all of our gold legally, the backing of the cash, to one group of individuals called the federal government, which, you got the feds versus the state government. The feds win as the dominant court dominant means of movement and money violation. And this happened shortly after the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 came in. But even prior to that, you take 1913 back down to 1776, you're only looking at just over 120, 30 something. Do the math, right? Do the math. And but it's not much. I don't think it's more than 140 years. 140 years, that could span 3, 4, maybe even 5 generations. But 3, let's say, 3 really long living, have given birth apart distantly from, like being old, having kids, something like that. Anyway, point is even during that time, there's evidences of the government in trade, the non necessarily fixed government, right? This is still the industrial era, so there's more feudalism. But socialism was generally said, and maybe appropriately so, to have come a lot from churches and welfare groups and stuff like that. But my understanding is, if you look at the history of welfare in the United States since we've become a nation, there's always been some sort of social interplay from those in control to those that are citizens or civilians, right? And meaning people of the land, But for the most part, you still had to work, sweat of the brow ethic and so forth. I'm just saying that there was some appeal to, local state municipalities or territories within the Americas that one could get relief, especially if you were a mother with children. I mean, I know they had orphanages, but a lot of that was because of maternal death during pregnancy. I'm babbling, but I'm just trying to get to a particular point that we've always had social networks and social help, and some of that has come top down since the formation of the government, because legally you have something called relief, right? And so when they took the gold, the relief that they gave the people legally was a Social Security Act, right? And then we're embedded within, then they solidify the commercial codes in the mid 40s, I think 46, and boom, we're on our way, right, until 1970, whatever, fucking Nixon yanking the gold as legal backing, making us fully fiat. And then we move into digital, digital just coding for banks. And then, it's always been in a digital ledger, right? But then, we got the Bitcoin thing. We got Yang giving out $1,000. It's just me pontificating. Yang giving out 1,000, spitballing. Yang giving out $1,000 to everybody is a good response if one wants to maintain Western corporate legal powers. Western corporate social media giants, Amazon giants, giant corporations, as meaning they're the tumorous flesh on classical capitalism that the left is really warring against. Like, the left is busy shooting up there, talking about the 1%, and the right's busy kind of blurring it all together. Like, hey, you want, any kid can, become super wealthy. You don't want to take the American dream away. Yet at the same time, you don't want to fucking, shoot for the stars, literally now. Like, if you're an Elon Musk or you're an Amazon, Jeff Bezos, right? And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be fruits of people's labor. I'm just saying let's tear down and go through corporate law structure as it relates to the government, because what makes China so powerful is that they do not allow the capital class to influence the political class. And that's what this country needs.
To differentiate himself against the Democrats, and the Democrats don't seem to be doing anything to stop that.
It seems like they're just moving leftward, Juan. Leftward and leftward and leftward. Well, that's not even a question, I admit it.
I'm going to go take a piss. I'll be back. Listen to this.
Because otherwise it'd be very Chinese and authoritarian of you. But I must say that I think Bernie is speaking against the heavy-handed use of tariffs, which is driving the whole economy to the verge of recession and damaging the Chinese economy. So what he's saying is there is an opportunity, I think he's saying, for closer ties between the U.S. and China, that we don't have to somehow demonize them as all evil and terrible, and if it's not Jay Powell at the Federal Reserve, then it's, the Chinese president as our enemy. I think he's trying to get out of that mindset. But I thought you were exactly right when you talked about how China has made progress. I mean, to my mind, maybe you're even giving too much credit to the Chinese government, because I think it's after Mao, after the revolution, after the re-education camps and the torture and the murder, that then you see the Chinese people start to rise up with the opportunity to employ free market ideas.
Yeah, as soon as we pull off, and see, this guy's the pundit. This guy's the leftist pundit there. As soon as we pull off getting all of the homeless people out of like Baltimore and San Francisco and Los Angeles and every other goddamn state, right, and move against the Jesus ethic that the poor are always going to be among you, right? Meaning it's a large bill to pay. But as far as America getting that lowest of low swamp class off the streets, there's some work to be done with that one. And I think the distribution of powers and classes, even their idea of who is poor in China. I'm not saying there's no beggars that are amputees on the side of the road, right? I'm not saying there's not meditated poor people in India that are, don't have two nickels to rub together, or the equivalent coin value. I'm saying that in the States we got prostitutes in terms of women and men, and we have very, very poor people. We have a lot of drug addicts. There's a lot of theft. There's a lot of crime. There's all that shit. And I mean, having not been to China or even multiple areas of China, I don't really have a grip. I don't think they're as heavy-handed and cleaned up as North Korea might be, right? With kind of that demanding, very discreet edge of the line. You don't fucking cross this or you get your arm cut off sort of law structure that North Korea would have. Sounds like China isn't taking a lot of shit, hence the Hong Kong issue there. But anyway, point is listen to this shit. These guys are as naive, at least in that area, as I am.
Ideas like property, like investment, bringing in American companies. But to me, it's still the case, and you can see it from the news we have today about Hong Kong and about the protest. You can see it in terms of no free press. You can see it and understand it in terms of repression, how they treat the Muslim minority here in China. That the Chinese government is still, to me, heavy-handed and authoritarian.
Yeah.
So I would give them credit for, I think, 3/4 of the reduction in global poverty over the last 20 years has been in China. Right. Tremendous. But I think Bernie is speaking less about that, actually, than he is about, hey, why can't we work with China instead of, and this speaks to Dana's point.
No, he didn't. Bernie did not say that to include this idea of, hey, we should work with China. Now this guy's at least he's influenced by this right-wing group enough to say that. So, say what you want. Everyone say what you want.
Instead of using these tariffs in a way that is not to our advantage, it's hurting our economy, it's hurting Germany's economy, it's hurting China's economy.
All right, I would love to see Bernie Sanders get on an airplane and make that speech in Hong Kong, because
that'd be powerful.
Come on, they continue to prove.
Okay, interesting. Now this is Jason Chaffetz. He was a congressman in the great state of Utah, whatever the fucking state I'm in. Peace in the Middle West, Utah. Peace in the Eastern West.
Praise these communist countries. If he wasn't praising China, he was praising Venezuela. If he wasn't praising Venezuela, he was praising Russia. He's a leader of the Democratic Party.
Look, Venezuela, we got the whole coup going on. We really want our corporate guy educated in the States to take over Maduro's spot or whatever, And so, you'd look at Abby Martin or Jimmy Dore or these other reporters. I'm not saying there's not, economic devastation going through Venezuela, but if you listen to the leader we're trying to oust, which I believe is Maduro, he said, hey, look, I have helped this country, but the U.S. with Britain backing has locked us out of billions upon billions of dollars that we were using to, help our country, and that it was going swimmingly well until the U.S. decided that the Koch brothers and the refineries in southern Texas, which only take heavier oils, would pull from the Tarzans and cause fucking debates of running pipes, more pipelines down underneath major river systems in the States all the way to fucking Tarzans down. Hey, now we got this huge, thicker or oil that needs better refinement than just U.S. domestic oil, and we want that contract. We want to own their fucking oil, so we're just going to take over their country. We're going to put in our corporate fuck to make certain that we got that money coming in, because U.S. is fucking bankrupt, and we're trying to get shit together. Our education isn't great. We import a lot of our finest minds because we're not too strict with our education. The tiger mom phenomena is not, granted, the Chinese language has ideographic writing more so than, the Western writing, and that influence could help in terms of scores, and I say that in terms of like modern emoticons are a type of ideographic functionality that is attempting, at least, in the eco internet environment, to influence people's immediate reactions to imageries, and as opposed to set pieces of words, which would make us more of an ideographic functioning nation. I mean, I have some faith in the future of humanity and kids and language and even international interplay, even though there's probably some distinction about how to interpret different aesthetics. Nonetheless, so China's working on something. They got the tiger mom phenomenon. They're doing really good in school. People are busting their hump. They're working in jobs that they're overeducated for. And anyway, let's and then Venezuela's got that. I don't remember the last country he brought up, but
He's not even in the Democratic Party. He's a Democratic socialist.
he's a Democratic socialist. He's not even in the Democratic Party, right? No, he's leading he is kind of leading, like the Democratic Party is moving more of these social things because the platform demands it. The polarization against how Trump has pulled apart law is informing the constituency of America, as well as other people, that the law can be retooled for the greater benefit for a greater number of people, and that's generally the Democratic side. Now, my candidacy, I'm under other, O-T-H, other, right? Or maybe it's O-T-R, O-H-R, but it's other. Point is I'm not an independent, I'm an other, and my other cherry picks from both things and tries to utilize the laws to bring the ship in. And I'm not saying Trump isn't captain. Currently, he's doing captain moves, even though he's potentially able to primitivize and ruin and cause hijackings and by hijackings I mean whole nations being kind of hijacked economically, socially, legally. A lot more corruption might be allowed, a lot more inclusion and exclusionary boundaries running against kind of the melting pot ethic. That's where we get this nationalism and the white, the pushback against the white nationalist groups. And you get philosophies that say you want to associate with whom you want to associate with and be within these populations. Then you want declarations of kind of territory or land that goes, and then the justification is, oh, hey, we don't want that poor white trash moving into our high-class black neighborhood here in Atlanta just because he won the fucking lottery, right? He's a fucking piece of white trash dipshit. Right, so let's get him the fuck out of here, right? Oh, legal immigration thing, whole other thing. Don't want to go there. Okay, we got to finish this up. 2 more minute and a half.
And what he has got to understand, and the difference between what he's doing and Donald Trump and everybody else is doing, is showing the positive things of capitalism. Yes, it can be better, but it is more people up out of poverty, provided more wealth in the history of the world than anything else, and yet you can't.
Okay, so maybe that is true. Maybe that is a talking point about capitalism. But does he ever, when he says more people out of poverty, right? Okay, so more people out of poverty has been given to capitalism. If China has a capitalistic infrastructure that is party controlled, whether they call it the Communist Party or whatever it is in China that allows capitalism to occur in mass and in trade independently, but with, I guess, proper accountings, right? Then that particular type of capitalism seems to make sense. Somehow they're triangulating Bernie to China, China to communism, communism bad in all cases. But in this particular case, where capitalism is allowed, but just not fraught with all of its contractual possibilities, right? Because the government is not over these independent, we're a plutocracy, we're a corporatocracy. And we know this. And that's why the idea of break up the banks, break up Google, break up Amazon, like chop this shit down, because otherwise everything's moving into a monolithic group that's too monopolized and too beneficiary to move people out of capitalism. I mean, capitalism in the Americas may have done this. This may have happened. The zeitgeist, the politics, even Trump's making the moves that he makes might be the rift, the fracture between old world feudalism and old capitalism, and affronting the powers that be that rub hands, grease hands, do a bunch of nefarious shit on the back end because they believe they're above the law, which, even though, commercial codes and interpretation of law and so forth, still favors those who can be bribed.
Bring himself to actually giving capitalism the credit it deserves.
What do you think, Emily? You hate capitalism.
I just like Bernie is such a farce, you guys. At a time when Hong Kong is being squashed, and he comes on the interview and he says you have to make a very strong statement for democracy and for human rights, and of course this administration isn't. And then of course, though, we've heard nothing about the Uyghur concentration camps. I wonder, under Bernie's administration, would he recognize Taiwan?
What now? So look, Trump will go against the Chinese president like mad, but when it comes to Hong Kong, something that was a Western European capitalistic influence like South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, even though it's legally gifted back to China, it was under certain legal registrations that it would retain a particular economical function. And so Trump's very good at pulling apart our domestic code, but he's not very good at being informed of the distinction between the Hong Kong code, the treaties. I think, what was it, France or Spain? Somebody gave away Hong Kong, returned it. And so it becomes a kind of not a rogue state, but an out-of-step economic area. And it does... I think it's a good experimental area for China as China's trying to regulate it, and then extradite people that they want to extradite. That they want to get their legal code into Hong Kong, and now the Hong Kong people are using that fracture, that rift, to demand more things of even their government, and that's why the conflict's existing there.
As a country, there's so much that he has failed to address that China represents. He ignored or kind of shot down the existential threat question as well. I mean, why aren't we hearing from him his position on China's stated purpose of nuclear and trade power on their random presence on the Arctic Circle Council? Every 5 years the president of China gives a political report, right? And in 2017, President Jinping did. And 30 times he said China will be a global power. He stressed that they wanted to improve their combat capability or whatever. And he also said, we will never swallow the bitter fruit of downgrading our interests for a purpose of someone else's benefit. So for Bernie to go out there publicly and say they are not a threat to us, or that they won't put themselves first and ignore all the other human rights violations. I don't know whether or not to shore up, some apologetic Bernie. If anyone knows this and gives a fuck, you can send me any video where Bernie says China is not a threat. I don't think Bernie thinks that. I don't think Bernie's like, China's not a threat. He knows. Congress people, senators know, they get reports also from, what's going on. And even though we got these special Congress people that get information, not just in their caucuses, but like 8 senators get filled in on what's going on in the executive branch sooner than the remaining senators, and you have to be, they're making a hierarchy or attempting to make a hierarchy out of the senatorship and say until OAC came in and just leaped up, right? And I'm not going to talk about her at all. Anyway, the point is the critique of capitalism, the critique of modern day capitalism, and the structure of China and the structure of the U.S. That's what I'm commenting on. These guys seem naive, and then she is just basically appealing like, hey,
as an American, and this lady is this brunette, kind of good-looking, brown-eyed, thin lady on Fox News. I don't know her name. She's not familiar to me. She's kind of saying, hey, look, Bernie's focus, the aspects that I want, she's basically saying, are not the aspects of description of China that Bernie's described, right? And I think that's fine, but all you're trying to do is get him to look at the same thing, the same entity, from a vantage point that is more aligned to trying to migrate people to your conservative point of view, hence buttressing corporate capitalism. Idealistically, we may need it as a United States to have the plutocracy of the corporation to war with and do trade agreements with other non-corporate government-controlled nations. And it may be one of our playing cards, kind of like the petrodollar, the Federal Reserve, or our trade imbalance globally. But I think for the most part, we are globalizing whether we want to or not. And all Trump has done is kind of like pull up some of the floorboards in the boat, and like he's refashioning it, and maybe he's knocking some holes in the side. I mean, a lot of shit's going to change, and it's sad. And as far as the human soul is concerned, I got my issues with the powers that be, and at the same time, I think that this is a very one-sided video here. It's got 10 more seconds.
Is again, it's such a joke to me.
Well, I think we pounded that segment into the ground.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, so anyway, there's that.
What would it be like if you could learn to make just $1 in your sleep, not just tonight, but tomorrow night and every night for the rest of your life? Sounds amazing, right?
Now, look, I could take that because this guy's wearing this super bright teeth. It's almost like someone that's got a grill in, but it's like a fake grill. Some English guy, and he's like, hey, how would it be great if you could always have this US dollar coming in? It sounds amazing, right? Except for what happens when the US dollar crashes to shit and we're underwater, and we're bringing in a garbage can full of fucking $10 bills that are overly printed in a year from now to buy our loaf of bread and our smack ramen that we can't, we finally kowtowed and allowed China to bring through the back end. Bring me my ramen noodles, please. High Man in the Castle. If you guys watch that, Philip K. Dick, it's on Amazon. It's a series. It's written by Philip K. Dick, but then the initial book was, but this is an adaptation of it. But it's under the precepts that the Nazis won World War II as well as Japan. Japan gets the West Coast, the Nazis get the East Coast, and the neutral zone is the Rockies, which is different than the spiritual binary in The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand, where Boulder, Colorado, all the good people in the apocalypse go there, all the bad people go to Vegas, and then there's that whole thing.
I'm giving you access to a free training video series where I'll show you exactly how to build a real business selling physical products on the world's largest retailer, Amazon.com. You probably
see, now, overall, I don't mind advertisements, and I know the guy's not making a pun on what happens if the dollar crashes and it's just fiat digital shit. Who's going to want this anyway? But there, let me tell you how to sell physical materials on this digital thing. And not only am I going to give you this for free, right? At first, I'm going to charge you. You're like, I'm going to tempt you. I'm going to fish hook you. Then I am not just going to show you digital, physical product. Like he's going to promote physical products. Watch.
We know that Amazon sells literally hundreds of millions of products a year. But what you probably don't know is that a large percentage of those are sold through a program called FBA, which stands for Fulfilled by Amazon. What that means is that people like you and I can source products, send them into Amazon's fulfillment centers, and then list them for sale on Amazon.com.
Physical products.
This website sells over.
So in other words, he's promoting now, just like a lot of people, like, hey, look, I'm going to drive my car. I'm going to use petrol because I don't have a Tesla. And I'm not all for foreign wars for oil, but I need to get to the fucking store, or I need to take a bus with an engine that's going to burn the same shit, right? Kind of like I'm a fair-weathered vegetarian. Sometimes I'll eat, sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'm focused on the ethics, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm not hardline one way or the other, and sometimes I am. Like I said, migratable positions. Anyway, point is, this guy's going to show you how to send out digital product or real products. But before you learn to do that, he's selling you this digital product, right? He's going to sell you a digital product, and then use that little shuck and jive, to get you going. Anyway.
For $100 billion worth of products a year, and in markets like the US, account for more than 50% of all online retail sales. Then, when someone buys your product on Amazon, Amazon will ship it to the customer for you, so you don't need a warehouse, leases, staff, or any of those headaches that come with traditional businesses. So the question is, does it actually work? Well, I've been selling on Amazon myself now for more than 8 years. I have my business in my pocket, and I've been earning income day in and day out, 24/7, no matter where in the world I am. But here's what's more important.
A good smelling
Over the last
piece of
few
wood.
years, we've taught almost 10,000 people from more than 41 countries the exact process that I use to build my own Amazon business. And these are people just like you. They're stay-at-home parents, they're professionals, they're school teachers, they're truck drivers.
I sell shit, people follow, they follow this. And in modern corporate capitalism, pyramid schemes, affiliate marketing, network marketing, I'm all about it. Keep your ass afloat. Try to level it up. As long as corporate capitalism is in fact in play, utilize the fruits of its presence. Right, but one of the modern day conveniences that is that anyone can trade. You don't have to be an accredited investor to trade. Okay, well, anyway, I appreciate you guys all listening. And let's see, someone's made a couple comments. I'll just read those real quick. Then we'll end the stream here. This message is held for review. I'm voting Bernie. I fucking hate capitalism. All right. Well, there we go. Burn, Bernie. I'm not asking you guys to vote for me. I'm not even on the fucking radar. But if I got on the radar, like if things moved and somehow, oh hey, Mike Fell is our candidate, right? Go to MikeFahl.com, MikeFahl. There's the Pontus thing. You can read some of what I believe needs to be injected into the political discourse. That being said, thanks for letting me vent. I don't even know why I wanted to do this. I just felt like, man, Fox 5, Fox fuckers, whatever. What a bunch of assholes. But I'm not all like old school. I'm in Marxist as a critique, as a carrot to put in front of you, as a prophecy, filled or unfilled. I don't move towards Marxism per se. I think human invention in terms of the way economics and dollars move is good as long as people have generally equal access to it. So I'm not an anti-capitalist and I'm not a pro fundamental Marxist or communist. Anyway, got to cherry pick. I'm about diplomacy, right? My campaign is about diplomacy because you got to stick some sort of goo in between the boards, like grout. Keeps shit from falling apart sometimes. And there is what I imagine a huge hijacking coming on. So prepare well, defend yourself, try not to slide in the swamp class, and good seeing you on Dudes. Give me that thumbs up, because whatever, and donate to the cause, buy some art off of me. Jesus Christ, buy some. All right, well, cheers. Voiced.